again to me, O Lord. This morning in this house, bless us again with your presence. Bless us again with your treasure of your word. Bless us again that we can know how to walk in your way. Take my tongue, Lord. Touch my mind and my heart. As we have worked through this word, I turn over to you, Lord. Lean not on my own understanding. For you know I can do this one by myself. In thy own way. In Jesus' name. Amen, amen, amen. My brethren, brothers and sisters in this wonderful house of Bethany, would you turn with me back to 2 Kings chapter 4, verse 17 to 37. In fact, we're going to be all the way from 8 to 37, but in the interest of time, I will not read all of it for you. Amen. Because we've already read 8 to 16 into your hearing. Our story today picks up from the scripture lesson already read into your hearing 8 to 16 for and we continue from 17 to 37, for it is a wonderful walk through the wisdom of worship and the works of faith that are necessary just to be a Christian in a day like ours today. And so if you'd allow me to read quickly with you, amen, about the Shunammite woman. Amen. I'll pick up from verse 17 if I can find it in my Bible. Here it is. But the woman conceived, amen, after Elisha had promised us this time next year, about this time next year, you shall embrace a son. And she said, no, my Lord, a man of God, do not lie to your maidservant. The original Hebrew text says, do not give me false hope. Do not lie to your maidservant. But the woman did conceive and bore a son when the appointed time had come, of which Elisha had told her. And the child grew, full stop, and the child grew. Now it happened one day that the child, went out to his father, to the reapers. And he said to his father, my head. So he said to the servant, carry him to his mother. For he had taken him and brought him to his mother. He sat on her knees till noon and then died. And she went up and laid him on the bed of the man of God, shut the door upon him, and went out. Then she called to her husband and said, please send me one of the young men and one of the donkeys, that I may run to the man of God and come back. So he said, why are you going to him today? It is neither the new moon nor the Sabbath. And she said, it is well. It's all right, don't worry about it. Then she saddled the donkey and said to her servant, drive and go forward. Do not slacken the pace for me unless I tell you. And so she departed and went to the man of God at Mount Carmel. So it was when the man of God saw her afar off that he said to his servant Gehazi, look, the Shunammite woman. Please run now to meet her and say to her, is it well with you? Shalom. Is it well with your husband? Shalom. Is it shalom with your child? And she answered, it is well. Shalom. Now, when she came to the man of God at the hill, she caught him by the feet, but Gehazi came near to push her away. But the man of God said, let her alone, for her soul is in deep distress, and the Lord has hidden it from me and has not told me. So she said, did I ask a son of my Lord? Did I not say, do not give me false hope, do not deceive me? Then he said to Gehazi, get yourself ready and take my staff in your hand and be on your way. If you meet anyone, do not greet them. And if anyone greets you, do not answer them, but lay my staff on the face of the child. And the mother of the child said, as the Lord lives and as your soul lives, I will not leave you, Elisha. So he arose and he followed her. And now Gehazi went on ahead of them and laid the staff on the face of the child. But there was neither voice nor hearing. Therefore he went back to meet him and told him, saying, the child has not awakened. When Elisha came into the house, there was the child lying dead on the bed. He went in therefore, shut the door behind the two of them, and prayed to the Lord. And he went up and lay on the child, and put his mouth in his mouth, and his eyes in his eyes, and his hands on his hands, and stretched himself out on the child. And the flesh of the child became warm. And returned and walked back and forth in the house, and again went up and stretched himself out on him, and the child sneezed 7 times. And the child opened up his eye, and he called Gehazi and said, "Call this Shunammite woman." So he called her, and when she came into him, he said, "Pick up your son." So she went in, fell at his feet, and bowed to the ground. Then she picked up her son and went out. Today, for the short time that we have, amen, all 30 minutes of it, we want to talk about woman, worship, and wicked works. Wisdom from a woman of God, amen. Woman, worship, and wicked works. Wisdom from a woman of God. Our story also highlights for us today the availability. And I like this story because it highlights the availability of a loving Savior, and a God who no longer restricts communication to new moons and Sabbath days, but any day and every time you need him, you can call on him. For not only is he on the main line anymore, he is the cloud or memory keeper of the treasures of our soul. He is the cloud of database of past, present, and future victories, and he is a selective server. Come on, say it to yourself. He's a selective server. He does not send your stuff to junk mail, does not allow spam, the sinful periods and moments of our lives. Just in case you didn't know what spam meant, the sinful periods and moments of our lives. God does not allow the spam of our lives to ruin the redeemed situation that he has established for us. He has a complete erasing process called blotting out. It's better than deleting. He calls it blotting out. It was around before deleting. That even the best devilish, demonic, and determined database specialists cannot find a thing when they open up my account. Because when Jesus cleans that whole account and sets you free, you are free indeed. So I love this story because I am very concerned today about the state of the mentality of our young people. It seems that like this child of privilege in the story, that their heads are all messed up. My head, daddy, my head. Just look back at the news this week in Sweet TNT. There were many obvious instances of insanity. Imagine. What would convince a 22-year-old to jump off a 3rd-floor balcony in Maloney to escape the custody of the police? Already arrested, according to the news, caught and being carried down, he decides it's a good idea to fight the police and jump over the 3rd-story balcony. Last I heard, he was in the hospital under heavy guard, using up my tax money. I mean, what kind of weed do you have to smoke to believe that you could fly off the 3rd-story balcony of such a building? I don't know. And help me to understand why when confronted by almost 20 heavily armed officers of the law, after you've been arrested, young man, cuffed and placed, albeit violently, into a police vehicle, and you would think that you are a bad man enough to jump out and resist arrest. I wonder why. Is it because the camera is on you? Is it because you're experiencing your 15 seconds of internet fame? I don't know. And there's some less obvious moments. And we thank God that Nathaniel, John, and Brian Richards were cleared of their resisting arrest and disorderly conduct. For those of you who don't know them, they were 2 young people among the other young people, the young leaders of this nation, who were protesting in 2018 outside my alma mater, my beloved University of the West Indies in St. Augustine. They got arrested for disorderly conduct. The next generation of leaders arrested for disorderly conduct and resisting arrest. I thank God they were cleared this week, and we hope they can get on with their lives. Insanity. After years of being a member of Parliament, in this final month of her tenure, at the dissolution of Parliament, Mrs. Ramona Ramdia, no one to shut down the brothels in our community. She now fighting for it. Insanity. Things so straight. that even the interreligious organization presently developing a recovery plan for the young people of Trinidad and Tobago. This is all in the news. I am real curious about it because I want to know, recovery from what? And I want to know, recovery through whom is the interreligious organization? And the last thing I want to know, how these 60 to 80-year-old people going to merge their wisdom with our youthful potential. Insanity. Children would sit all day long and watch somebody else play a game on YouTube. I just can't understand it. Now I used to sit all day and play the game, but children now sit down all day and watch somebody else play the game. It just insanity. Doesn't make sense. Children would rather live, play, jump, and run in virtual reality than to go outside and play. It's insanity. Children without patience or the attention span, they say, to listen to their parents, the teachers, or even us pastors for 8 minutes, yet they could spend hours listening to Jelly, Aziland, and Sniffalicious. Is Sniffalicious? Sniffalicious. Insanity. Yet I suspect that our present position is due to our own action or inaction. I suspect that those of us who have been too busy to play with our own children may have caused this issue. I suggest that those of us who are too cautious to interact with other people's children, we may have caused this issue. I suggest that some of us who are too scared to say anything to hurt children. If you give me an amen, I'm going to explain. Give me an amen. I thank you for your help. I'm going to need your support with this one. Amen. Have you ever noticed the one-sided nature of parent-to-parent to child relationship? Have you ever asked your child a question and your co-parent responded? I said, you gotta help me. I gotta go home tonight. Amen. Have you ever asked your child something and your co-parent answered for them? Has your co-parent ever questioned your punishment level and just unleashed theirs? I suspect that our own behavior, I don't know. I sometimes have to ask let my wife know I'm talking to my son. I would love if he would answer me. I would love if we could have a conversation. I'm not trying to hurt him. I just want to have a conversation with him. You've got to be careful, parents, that you don't lock out your co-parent. That's what they call them these days. So even if you're married, I'm going to call them co-parent. Amen. That you don't lock out your co-parent by being too protective of your child. And I suspect that in 2 Kings chapter 4, this is what we found, that this lady was a little too overprotective of her son, so that her husband, when her son came to the husband and said, my hand, his response was, take him to his mama. All right, so let me get to the text. The text says a couple of things that we need to look at, we need to know. Now I'm going to be brief, so help me. The text says that Elisha, the prophet who lived in Mount Carmel, used to pass through Shunem, and in passing through Shunem, one day he probably stopped by and said something to the people. And there were some people in Shunem, specifically this lady of renown, this lady of worth, this lady who was great. The Bible describes her as a great lady, which suggests that she had wealth, power, and position. And maybe because of her husband, or maybe because she was a great lady. Maybe she was in charge of the Women's League. Maybe she was just in charge of Maternity United. Maybe she was just in charge of something that made her a spokesperson for the community. But she heard Elisha, and this is what she did. She went to her husband and said, let us build this man, because this man is a man of God, and he passes through here often enough. We had dinner with him, and we just want to keep him in our house, because if we keep him in our house, we know that our house will be blessed. So let us build a permanent residence for this man in the house. Let me break it down. Let me let you know how I know that. Because she said, let us build a room of walls, of permanent walls. Not wood, not straw, but let us build a room of walls. You've got to get back to the original text to understand what it says. This Bible says that let us build a room in the wall. Put a bed, a table, and a lampstand. The original text says, she said, let us build a room of permanent block walls, so that it would always be there in our house. I feel the same way when I meet Jesus. I feel the same way every time he comes to my house. I need to build a permanent me. The Bible said, and after many, many times of coming to, and I know this because things have passed, lunches were had, and you got to read into the Bible. The time that is contained in these short verses is years when you count it. Elijah goes through and stays with her. He and Gehazi stays with them. Over and over again, stays with them. In fact, sometimes just to get away from Mount Carmel, he goes to shoot them just to stay with them, because he's probably tired of answering all these religious questions, and so he wants a little rest, so he goes to shoot them where he could stay with her. And I like it because, on his way from Mount Carmel, on his way from the cave to the church, he passed through the community. I just said something. On his way from the cave to the church, he passed through the community, and somebody in the community was able to see him passing through and say, I know you're always passing, but one day won't you stop by and sup with me so I can know about this joy that you have. I thank God that on his way from the cave, his house, to the church in Jerusalem, he stopped in Shunem, and so they built a place. And this is what happened. He said to Gehazi one day, this lady has blessed us. They built a room, a bed, and a lampstand for us so that we can stop in every time that we're passing through. I call this lady so that we can ask her, what does she want for her worship? All right. You should be trying to understand what's going on now, because here I am to let you know that you should worship not because you want something, but because you got something. He said to her, you've been so good to us. What can we do for you? Can I talk to the king, to the commander of the army? Can I get you some power or position? She said, I dwell among my own people. And with one statement, she said, I have all that I need. The Lord has blessed me. The Lord has kept me. The Lord has established my feet. He's made my enemies my footstool. The Lord has let my right hand and my feet should not be moved. I dwell among my own people. I got what I want. I got what I need. I am worshiping because God has been good to me. I am good to the man of God because God has been good to me. I'm good to the man of God not because I want a prophecy of this time next year, but because God has blessed me last year, because God has blessed me last month, because God has blessed me last week, because God has blessed me yesterday. When I woke up this morning, with my mind stayed on Jesus, I realized that He blessed me today, that I can get out of my bed, throw back my head and say, thank you, Jesus. I'm alive and in my right mind and some semblance of health today. So you got to worship, not because you want something, but because you got something. Here's the issue. To know that you've got something, you've got to learn to count your blessings. We're going to take you back to old school. As the psalmist said, when upon life billows you are tempest tossed, when you are discouraged, thinking of all is lost, count your many blessings, name them one by one, and it will surprise you what the Lord has done. Then you begin to worship Him and praise Him because what He has done, what He has given, what He has been, what He is to you. And not for what you want, but for what you got. Well, the story goes on as we look for lessons because from this woman of God that she did conceive. In fact, she said to Elijah, "Oh my Lord, don't lie to me now. Don't. One version said, don't give me false hope." And I wish I had time to let you know a couple things about hope, but just to make it brief as I could, you have to understand that if you were married and you didn't have offspring, and then after a certain amount of years, I think it's 10 years, there's reason for your husband to divorce you in their community, in their situation. Amen? And so even though she was in a good position, even though her husband was wealthy, even though she had power and privilege, because she had no child, she had no heritage. I just here to let you know that if her husband had died and she was childless, she had no one to take care of her, because the heritage is only given to the boys in their situation. It was given to the boys. And so without a boy child or man child, they would have relegated her to the side. But we thank God that He knows our needs and He takes care of our needs. And so after she said, I've been among my own people, He said, yeah, I know, but I need to establish you in such a way that no one can take you down. I need to establish you in such a way that I can set you on the side of the mountain. I got a light to shine, and your enemies themselves can't see you to have their way with you. I'm going to establish you. And so the man of God said to her, this time next year, you shall embrace a son. She said, don't give me false hope now. But she conceived, and she did have a son. And the Bible says, and it covers a number of years in one four-word statement. It says, and the child grew. Yeah, four. And the child grew. Somebody should say amen. Because when you trust in God and lean not on your own understanding, your things will grow. When you trust in God and you give it over to Him, your things will grow. Your harvest will come. Your business will blossom. Your things will grow. When you trust in the Lord assures success. He assures prosperity because He has the whole world in His hands. And if you trust in Him and give Him the glory, your things will grow. Let's touch yourself on your lap. Say your things will grow. Say my business will grow. Say I'll do good in school. I'll do exceptionally well because the Lord is with me. I'm going to get my promotion. In my job, my clients are going to increase. My things will grow because I trust in the Lord and I lean not on my own understanding. Well, so the child grew and years passed. Let me just break it down for you, my own theology. The Bible says a little later on in verses that when Elisha came to see about the child, Elisha was able to go mouth to mouth. The CPR of the soul, somebody. Let's say CPR of the soul. Sometimes you guys are so dead you need CPR of the soul. CPR is bringing the dead back to life. You don't do CPR in live people, you do CPR people who are already dead, bringing dead back to life. And some of y'all need CPR of the soul. And if not you, you know somebody who needs CPR of the soul. So every now and then, you need to know how to breathe. You need to know how to press. You need to know how to breathe. You need to know how to press so that you can help somebody come back to life. You're breathing and you're pressing and you're breathing and you're breathing and you're pressing. Because somebody you know needs CPR of the soul. Well, my point is that when Elisha came, he went mouth to mouth, he went eye to eye, he went hand to hand. He was able to stretch out and go hand to hand. So that child was a big child. Somebody help me. He was a big child. Many years would have passed. He was a big child. And this is what happened. And he decided to go meet his father and the reapers in the garden one day. The harvesters in the garden. And I don't know if he just was not accustomed to the sun because he was on Xbox and PlayStation all day. I don't know if the walk was just too much for him because his diet was bad, he was hyperventilating. I don't know what would have caused him not to be able to make that journey to his father. But the Bible said when he got to his father, he held on to his head and said, Daddy, my head is hurting. I'm a little taken aback by his father's response. This is my point I was making. I couldn't understand how my son's head could be hurting and I could tell somebody else to take him to his mother. I couldn't understand how my son could be sick and I had to tell somebody else to take him to somebody else. If my son was sick, we come back to the harvest tomorrow. I'm going to see about my son. If my child was sick, and I thank God because I think he has like mind as I do, that when his children are sick, he stops what he's doing to come take care of us as we call on him. And as you call on the Lord, he hears and he answers. He doesn't send you to somebody else. He doesn't tell you to try something else. He says, I have the answer that can look secluded from his father, and all he could say was, take him to his mother. My brothers and sisters, I'm here just to let you know at that point that you cannot nurse nonsense. All right, give me one more minute. You cannot nurse nonsense. All right. I don't know why he couldn't make it through that son to get to his father. I'm not sure why his father sent him back to his mother. But this is what the Bible records. The Bible records that when he came back, when they brought him back to his mother, she put him to sit on her knees. And at noon he died. Join me in my imagination as we go through the chronological situation here. Early in the morning he went to go to his father in the harvest field, because they harvest early in the morning before the sun is too hot upon them. They go early. Anybody who has a garden, come testify with me. We go early in the morning before the sun comes up. He went early in the morning. By the time he got to his father, he had the headache. I don't know if it was the wicked intentions of the servants. I don't know if it was the wicked intentions of the neighbors. I don't know whose wicked intentions as well, but somebody's wicked intentions were on that boy, and his head began to hurt. The Bible said his father sent him back to his mother early in the morning, and she sat down with that boy on her knees until noon when he died. You cannot nurse nonsense. You have got to pray nonsense away. You have got to beat nonsense out. You cannot nurse nonsense. He can't be a good boy to you and killing somebody else's child. You cannot nurse nonsense. He can't be bringing home things from school that you know he did not buy with the money you did not give him, and you accept it and you take it as your own. You cannot nurse nonsense. You can't be cussing in your own house and have your child cussing with you and then expect him to stand up straight when he's outside. You cannot nurse nonsense. You can't be smoking and drinking on the corner and then expect your children not to smoke and drink on the corner. You cannot nurse nonsense. Here's this one. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. If you're going to live under this roof, if you're going to eat my food, if you're going to drink out of my fridge, then you're going to go to church with me every Sunday when the church is open. Because I will not nurse nonsense. If you nurse nonsense, it grows up to bite you in the behind. When you nurse nonsense, it grows up to disrespect you. When you nurse nonsense, you end up burying your children rather than your children burying you. You cannot nurse nonsense. You just can't nurse nonsense. So she sat there with that boy. It's all right, son. Comforting him in his foolishness. It's all right, son, until he died. Coming to a close, this is what she did. She sent to the husband, and she didn't tell the husband that he was dead. I'm amazed at the distance between parent and child. Amen. She said, please send the servant and a donkey so that I can go to the man of God. And he said, because he didn't know his son was dead, he said, why do you need to go to the man of God today? It's not the new moon. It's not the Sabbath. Why are you going to pray today? Because it's not Sunday. It's not Wednesday evening, you know. But she said, Shalom, it is well. I would have said, because I needed to pray every day. I know my situation. I know how bad it is. I need to pray every day. But she said, it is well. Hold on to that. I'll come back to it. Amen. The Bible says she saddled up that donkey. I know I shouldn't ask for a horse, but she saddled up that donkey. And she told her servant, just hold tight to the reins. You beat that donkey, let that donkey run. And you don't let up on the speed unless I tell you so. You just keep going. I'm going to go there. It doesn't matter how long I have to pray, Pastor. It doesn't matter how hard I have to work, Pastor. It doesn't matter how many times I have to tell that child, don't do that, walk this way, walk that way, Pastor. You just keep going. I'm going to go with you. We're not going to nurse nonsense. We're going to get this thing right, even if it kills us. You just keep going. I'm going to go with you. I don't want you to nurse nonsense. The Bible said when she almost got to Elisha, the Bible said Elisha sent Gehazi out to ask her, is it well with your husband? Is it well with your son? Is it well with you? And she said, it is well. Our brothers and sisters, my last word to you is that no matter what your situation is, if you can have faith in God, you too in the face of death can stand up and say, it is well. She said, it is well. And so Elijah had to go do some things, do some physical things, do some praying things. He had to pray, walk up and down to the house. And I wish I had time to let you know that sometimes the problem might not be just the child, it might be the house. Woo! I just wish I had time to let you know. And even after Elijah went the first time on the boy, and the boy got some warmth in him, he still didn't wake up. Elisha had to go down in the house and walk up and down in the house and pray up and down in the house and get the house right so that the boy could be right. There's a sermon in that for you maybe next week to let you know that you can't get your children right unless you get your house right. And you can't get your money right unless you get your house right. You can't get your health right unless you get your house right. And when he got the house right, he went back up to the boy, lay out on him one more time. The boy sneezed several times and woke up. And the lady, when she came up, she began to praise God. And she took her son because she knew all along it is well. If the good Lord do it, it is well. He can heal it. It is well. He can make a way out of no way. It is well. He can heal my body. It is well. He can keep my soul. It is well. He can do for me what nobody else can. It is well. My God is able. He can do more than I can ask, think, or dream. I will not be scared of what situations may come my way. It is well with my soul, and God will take care of me. Won't he do it? I know he will, because 2,000 some years ago, Jesus came down from heaven, walked the dusty streets of Nazareth. He prayed, he walked, he talked, he lived, and they took him up Calvary's mountain. They stretched him out on a cross. He hung his head and died. But that's not how the story ends. And so it is well with my soul, because early Sunday morning, he rose from the grave. He got up saying, I got all power in my hand. I have defeated death. I have defeated the grave. There is nothing too big or too small for me to do. And so whatever your situation is, whatever your child's struggle is, whatever your house problems are, God can fix it. He can handle it. He can make a way out of no way. So that you two right now can say, it is well. It is well. It is well with my soul. My brothers and sisters, this woman of God taught us many things, but in the time that we have had together this morning, first of all, you've got to build a permanent upper room in your heart for your Lord. Permanent, not a tent. Don't take it down as soon as you leave the church doors. Permanent room where you can go and pray and be with your Lord. Secondly, you've got to worship not because you want something, but because of what you have got. Worship because God has been and still is and always will be good to you. Thirdly, don't nurse nonsense. Do not tolerate, do not encourage, do not nurse nonsense. In whatever situation you find yourself in, know that because your Father loves you, because he cares, and because he has all power, you can say, it is well with my soul.